faithfully delivering value, interpreting global great books. Hello, this is Sally's Book Talk. Today, I'll interpret the book Chewing Through Two Millennia. The subtitle is From Medicine to Addictive Substance, The Popular History of Betel Nut in China, authored by Dr. Cao Yu, a historian and dietary anthropologist from Jinan University. Do you or someone around you chew betel nut? What are your thoughts on this habit? Welcome to leave comments in the comment section. There are four major legal addictive substances in the world: tobacco, tea, coffee, and betel nut. The betel palm tree originates from Southeast Asia, and its fruit is shaped like an olive. Chewing it tastes a bit bitter at first, but it quickly makes your cheeks flush, you sweat slightly, and feel excited. So, people usually use it to refresh their minds. Betel nut is mainly popular in Asia, especially South Asia, like India and Southeast Asia. There, street vendors selling betel nut are everywhere. People not only eat it themselves, but also use it as a must-have for entertaining guests and weddings. In some southern regions of China, like Guangdong, Hainan, Taiwan, and Hunan, there's also the custom of chewing betel nut. Hainan is also a major global producer of betel nut. In ancient China, betel nut was even more widespread. During the Wei, Jin, and southern and northern dynasties, the nobility were fond of chewing betel nut, and it was a symbol of their status. Famous figures like the Tang dynasty monk Xuanzang, the northern Song dynasty literary giant Su Shi, all chewed betel nut. In the Qing dynasty, the bannermen became the main consumers, and Emperor Jixing was even addicted to it. Since it's an addictive substance, negative news is inevitable. Research shows that frequent chewing of betel nut can induce oral cancer. The World Health Organization has also listed betel nut as a Group 1 carcinogen. From a health perspective, long-term consumption of betel nut does more harm than good to the human body. And even so, there are still tens of millions of people chewing betel nut in China today, and worldwide users reach up to 800 million, mostly concentrated in South Asia. It can be said that betel nut is an addictive substance that's only popular in specific regions, but has a huge audience, which inevitably makes one ponder three soul-searching questions. Three questions. First question: how did betel nut become popular and spread to China? Second question: why did chewing betel nut once prevail among the upper class? Third question: how did the custom of chewing betel nut fade away? Why didn't betel nut spread globally like other addictive substances? These questions can all be answered in Chewing Through Two Millennia. Next, I'll discuss around these three questions. This book first addresses the first question: how did betel nut become popular and spread to China? Betel nut originates from the Philippine Islands, and the custom of chewing betel nut also started there. Archaeologists have found traces of betel nut staining on human teeth unearthed from Palawan Island in the Philippines. And, according to carbon dating, these teeth date back about 4,700 years. It's clear that as early as the Neolithic age, Filipinos had already begun eating betel nut. Over time, this custom spread outward. In a vast area stretching north to Taiwan, China, south to New Zealand, east to Easter Island, and west to Madagascar, the indigenous people first harvested wild betel nut, then cultivated and processed it artificially, and it gradually became a daily necessity. Of course, this process was very long, lasting thousands of years, but once rooted, the habit of chewing betel nut was passed down through generations. So what exactly is the appeal of betel nut? The answer is, it contains arginine. Scientific research shows that arginine is similar to nicotine, enhancing central nervous system sensitivity and making people feel relaxed and happy. In Southeast Asia is muggy and hot, which easily makes people sleepy. Chewing betel nut has a mind-refreshing effect. From this angle, ancient Southeast Asians eating betel nut is similar to modern people drinking coffee. Thus, betel nut has high consumption value in regions with high temperatures and humidity. About 3,500 years ago, betel nut entered India via the Malay Peninsula and spread rapidly across Asia from south to north. To this day, Chewing betel nut remains common in countries like India, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka, with India being the world's top producer and Pakistan the largest importer. And these areas are also very humid and hot. The spread of betel nut in China followed the same pattern. Archaeological and documentary evidence indicates that betel nut first appeared in Lingnan, known for its humidity and heat, roughly covering parts of today's Guangdong, Guangxi, Hainan, and Fujian. In the autumn of 112 BCE, Emperor Wu of Han sent General Liu Bo to attack the separatist regime occupying Lingnan. After completing the mission, Liu Bo brought back a large quantity of Nanyue specialties to Chang'an, presenting them to Emperor Wu of Han, including lychee, palm, and betel nut. Emperor Wu of Han greatly treasured them and planted them in the royal gardens. In the Shanglin Garden, Sima Shangwu was commissioned to compose the Shanglin Fu, depicting a scene where the garden gathered exotic treasures like betel nut trees, palm trees, coconut trees, and other tropical plants in vibrant display, full of exotic charm. This is also the first mention of betel nut in Chinese literature, though it was called renpin at that time. The book's author speculates that renpin comes from Javanese, possibly acquired by Lingnan ancestors through trade with Javanese people. Unfortunately, due to unsuitable climate, the betel nut trees in Shanglin Garden failed to survive. From then on, betel nut disappeared from Chinese literature for over 200 years until the Eastern Han Dynasty, when an official named Yang Fu wrote records of exotic things documenting local customs. As a Lingnan native, his book included many regional specialties, including betel nut. In fact, it was Yang Fu who first used the term binlong, betel nut, which continues to this day. The author speculates this may be derived from Malay pronunciation. This again shows that Lingnan's betel nut culture originated in Southeast Asia. Yang Fu detailed betel nut's growth and consumption method. People first peel and boil the betel nut, then apply a little lime to betel leaves, a pepper family plant, and wrap them together for chewing. Why pair them with betel leaves and lime? Because betel nut is quite bitter, and these ingredients neutralize the bitterness. Yang Fu's records indicate that by at least the Eastern Han Dynasty, the custom of chewing betel nut was already established in Lingnan. However, betel nut spread was clearly insufficient, remaining confined to Lingnan for a long time without expanding outward. The reasons are actually simple: low demand and high price. As mentioned earlier, betel nut is suitable for refreshing people in hot, humid regions. This demand decreases further north, and betel palm trees only grow in tropical climates, unable to survive if transplanted north. If northerners wanted betel nut, it had to be transported all the way from Lingnan, making it expensive and unaffordable for most. High prices without market demand naturally hindered its promotion and popularity. Fortunately, betel nut found its application scenario as a medicinal ingredient. During the Eastern Han Dynasty, traditional Chinese medicine advanced significantly, incorporating many new substances, including betel nut. The renowned physician Zhang Zongjing wrote in Sympasis of the Golden Chamber, "For deficiency heat in the 5 viscera, drink bupleurum decoction, with ingredients including 8 parts bupleurum root and 4 betel nuts." Zhang Zongjing spent most of his life practicing in Henan, Hunan, and Hubei. His familiarity with betel nuts' medicinal effects shows it was introduced to the Central Plains as a medicinal substance. Today, TCM still includes a medicinal material called dafupi, betel nut's outer husk, used to relieve bloating, edema, and similar conditions. Of course, considering the high price, betel nut should be categorized as a precious medicinal ingredient, only affordable to the upper class. This also suggests that to promote betel nut beyond Lingnan to broader regions, we must target the upper class. In today's terms, it means opening up the high-end market, which is exactly betel nut's propagation strategy. The second question: Why did chewing betel nut once prevail among the upper class? We'll discuss this now. People today might find it hard to imagine that during the Eastern Jin and Southern and Northern dynasties period, from the early 4th century to the mid 6th century, for about 250 years, betel nut gradually prevailed among the upper class. The nobility underwent a huge shift from looking down on betel nut, viewing chewing it as a barbaric custom, to everyone competing to eat it and demanding the best quality. Behind this dietary culture shift lie the drastic changes of the times, starting from the Yiguan Nandu. In 36 AD, the Western Jin dynasty collapsed, and aristocratic families from the Central Plains crossed the Yangtze River to seek refuge with the imperial clan guarding Jiangdong. On 34, Sima Rui, historically known as the migration of the gentry south. 2 years later, with support from aristocratic families of the Central Plains and local gentry in Jiangdong, Sima Rui declared himself emperor in Jiankang, now Nanjing, establishing the Eastern Jin dynasty. Although Sima Rui was nominally emperor, real power was held by aristocratic families led by the Long clan of Longya. At that time, a proverb emerged: Wang and Ma rule the world together, meaning the Wang clan and the Sima clan jointly governed the realm.
Besides the Wang clan of Lengya, Eastern Jin had other aristocratic families, like the Shi clan of Gaoping, the Yu clan of Yingchuan, the Chen clan, and the Si clan. These families monopolized mid to high-level official posts, with their descendants holding high positions, living worry-free lives of wealth and leisure, becoming the so-called Shizu.
They considered themselves refined and noble, and betel nut possessed such qualities. They said, the betel palm tree stands tall and straight, elegant and branchless, meaning the trunk is upright with no forks. This metaphorically represented the gentry class, with upright conduct and unwavering loyalty to the monarch. Thus, betel nut became a symbol for renowned scholars. However, during the Eastern Jin period, the gentry mainly used betel nut for self-promotion, treating it as a status symbol, rarely consuming it. Chewing betel nut became a widespread trend only during the Southern and Northern dynasties period. In 420 AD, the Eastern Jin dynasty collapsed. For nearly 170 years after that, southern China went through 4 regimes: Song, Qi, Liang, and Chen, with Jiankang as their capital, ruling across the river from northern powers, historically known as the Southern and Northern dynasties. Entering this period, records of scholar gentry chewing betel nut significantly increased, with many betel nut-related anecdotes emerging. The official history of the Southern dynasties, History of the South, tells a story. Lu Muji, from a poor family, often mooched meals from relatives. After eating, he'd ask for betel nut, prompting his relative to mock. Betel nut aids digestion. What use is it for someone always hungry? Later, after Lu became successful, he invited the relative to dinner. When wine flowed freely, he had the chef serve a hu of betel nut on a golden plate. Hu was an ancient measurement unit equivalent to about 40 pounds today. Lu's extravagant display carried strong show-off vibes. Thus, later generations used a hu of betel nut or golden plate betel nut to describe exaggerated behavior after striking it rich.
Of course, Lu ultimately repaid his relative generously with good intentions. So, a hu of betel nut also implies letting bygones be bygones and treating others magnanimously.
The great Tang poet Li Bai wrote, "When will I offer a hu of betel nut on a golden plate, imagining lavishly repaying friends after achieving success?" History of the South also records another story. Southern Dynasty's writer Ren Fang and his father Ren Yao both loved betel nut. On his deathbed, Ren Yao craved good betel nut, but rejected over 100 pieces, dying regretfully. Ren Fang felt deeply guilty and never ate betel nut again in his lifetime. The author notes that both Ren Fang and Lu Muji were scholar gentry who migrated from north to south. Their betel nut habit formed in the south, indicating that By the southern and northern dynasties, chewing betel nut was extremely common among southern scholar-gentry. So how did this trend form? The answer lies in Buddhism's widespread dissemination. Southern dynasties' rulers deeply believed in Buddhism. Emperor Gao of Qi, Xiao Daocheng, and Emperor Wu of Liang, Shaoyan, were devout Buddhists. As they say, when superiors have preferences, inferiors will exaggerate them. Promoted by emperors, the upper class embraced Buddhism. Scholar gentry followed scriptures, built temples, filling the air with incense smoke and chanting. Tang poet Du Mu's line, 480 Southern Dynasties temples, how many towers stand in misty rain, vividly depicts this splendor. Coincidentally, betel nut held a place in Buddhism. Since Buddhism's birth, Indian monks used betel nut to refresh minds and freshen breath. Early Buddhist scriptures listed betel nut alongside rice, incense, oil lamps, etc. as offerings. Devotees could present them to Buddha and eminent monks. As Buddhism spread in the southern dynasties, betel nut was quickly embraced by the upper class. More scholar gentry began chewing it, creating a betel nut craze. Southern dynasties' emperors also enjoyed rewarding ministers with betel nut. Emperor Wu of Liang frequently bestowed premium betel nut upon his favored ministers. Xinyu even wrote a regulated poem, Ode to the Bamboo Betel Nut Tray, thanking imperial grace, it said. After joyous drinking, chewing betel nut becomes life's finest pleasure. Ode to the Bamboo Betel Nut Tray is also among China's earliest regulated poems. This betel nut craze reached the northern dynasties, largely driven by scholar gentry migrating north from the south. Yu Xin is a prime example. Born into nobility, Yu Xin was originally a southern Liang official who fled north during civil strife, later serving in western Wei and northern Zhao. Once, upon unexpectedly seeing southern betel nut, he was overwhelmed with nostalgia and wrote poem on suddenly seeing betel nut. Moreover, Northern Dynasty's texts, like Essential Techniques for the Common People and Records of Buddhist Monasteries in Luoyang, mention betel nut, proving some northern gentry also chewed it. However, Northern Dynasty's rulers held mixed feelings. While promoting Buddhism created demand, they resented betel nut's high cost. Betel nut from Lingnan was already expensive after traveling to Jiankang. Shipping it north made it astronomically priced. If northern gentry became avid chewers, the financial drain would be immense, something rulers couldn't tolerate. Under deliberate suppression, betel nut remained confined to small circles without gaining popularity. In 589 AD, the Sui dynasty conquered the Chen dynasty, China's last southern regime, reunifying the empire. During this, southern clans suffered devastating blows. Records show major southern clans like Shi, Long, Gu, and Lu were largely excluded from power during Sui Tang, losing influence. Even northern clans declined under imperial pressure. In late Tang, scholar gentry faced massive blows from peasant uprisings and warlord conflicts, with many great families exterminated. Thus, scholar gentry vanished as a class. Their disappearance directly caused the betel nut craze to fade. The logic is simple. Clans were betel nut's core consumers. Without them, the craze had nothing to cling to, though betel nut didn't disappear completely. As a medicinal ingredient and Buddhist offering, it still had its market. The renowned Tang physician Sun Sinyao included over a dozen betel nut prescriptions in 1,000 gold formulas, mostly for digestive ailments. During his studies in India, the eminent monk Xuanzang received 20 betel nuts daily. After returning, devotees still offered them to him. Additionally, due to its remoteness, Lingnan became a place for exiling officials during Tang Song dynasties. Arriving officials naturally encountered betel nut, with many composing poems about it to express their sentiments. Thus, Tang Song literati were familiar with betel nut. Even if they hadn't tasted it, hadn't they heard others speak of it or read about it in poetry? Indeed, Li Bai, Bai Jui, Sushi, Yang Wanli, Lu Yu, and Zushi all describe betel nut. For example, during his Lingnan exile, Sushi tasted betel nut and wrote 4 poems praising its effects. Of course, that glorious era when the upper class proudly chewed betel nut was truly gone forever. By Yuan Ming periods, provinces north of the Yangtze had virtually no records of betel nut consumption. Thus, betel nut chewing returned to its original state, a unique local custom of Lingnan. Inspect was unexpected. Intrigued leading, during the Qing dynasty, betel nut rose to prominence again. It gained favor among the bannermen. How did this habit form? Turns out, during Ming-Qing conflicts, Ming deployed southern soldiers to Liaodong against Qing forces. These soldiers loved betel nut, and when captured, their betel nut fell into Qing hands. Some Qing soldiers tasted it and discovered betel nut boosts blood circulation, warming the body. This was precious and icy Liaodong, so word spread rapidly, becoming a widespread custom. After Qing entered China proper, wherever bannermen were garrisoned, like Beijing, Xi'an, Nanjing, betel nut chewing became habitual. In Chapter 64 of Dream of the Red Chamber, Jialian flirts with second sister Yu, claiming he forgot his betel nut pouch. Sister, if you have betel nut, spare me a bite. A betel nut pouch, as the name suggests, held betel nuts for easy carrying. Palace archives show Qing emperors carried betel nut pouches, often gifting them to favorites. Emperor Jia Qing was even addicted, repeatedly demanding more tribute from Guangdong officials as the palace supply ran short. Interestingly, Northern Han Chinese never adopted this custom. Betel nut was too expensive, affordable only to bannermen with hereditary stipends and carefree lives. This also means that after the fall of the Qing dynasty, losing its main customer base of bannermen, the betel nut market shrank drastically and retreated back to the Lingnan region. So, have you ever wondered why all addictive substances? Why can tobacco, tea, and coffee be sold worldwide? Why is betel nut so regionally specific? Next, we'll explore this issue. Among the world's recognized 4 major legal addictive substances, betel nut ranks fourth, with 800 million consumers. Its scale seems huge, but without comparison, you don't see the gap. Oh, in 2017, global coffee production reached 9.21 million tons. How about betel nut? 1.34 million tons, less than 15%.
That same year, tobacco production was 6.5 million tons. Tea was 6.1 million tons, both far exceeding betel nut.
More strikingly, tobacco and coffee are everywhere. But what about betel nut?
It's mostly confined to Southeast Asia, the Indian subcontinent, and parts of southern China, struggling to make major breakthroughs. What exactly is preventing betel nut from becoming a global commodity? Perhaps understanding how tobacco and tea rose to prominence can help us find the answer. First, tobacco. Tobacco originated in the Americas. In the late 15th century, Columbus discovered the New World and saw locals smoking tobacco wrapped in corn leaves. Intrigued, he brought it to Europe, where it quickly became a craze among the upper class. I read the story from C.G. Martin. In the early 17th century, the English established colonies in Virginia and began growing tobacco. Virginia tobacco was high quality, exported to Europe to great acclaim, becoming the economic backbone of British North America. Simultaneously, with the British Empire's expansion, tobacco spread across Asia and Africa. Tobacco's popularity stems from 2 factors: strong addictiveness and broad cultivation range. Its nicotine stimulates dopamine release, excites the brain, and creates intense dependency, making quitting hard. Oh, well, in contrast, betel nut's main component, arcoline, can stimulate the brain, but is less addictive than nicotine. For instance, Dutch colonists in Southeast Asia learned to chew betel nut. When they returned to Europe and couldn't get it, they simply endured and moved on. In fact, even if the Dutch tried self-sufficiency, they couldn't. Betel nut only grows in tropical regions. Tobacco is different. It grows from 40 degrees north to 40 degrees south. Vast areas from the US and South Korea to Australia and South Africa are suitable. It stretches south to Australia and South Africa, vast regions suitable for tobacco cultivation. You might say, hey, tea isn't highly addictive either, and its cultivation is similarly limited. Why did it conquer the world?
The driving force was still the British Empire.
In the early 17th century, the British reached eastward, urgently needing a commodity for high profits to fund colonial India. But back then, the East's most profitable goods, spices and jewels, were controlled by Portuguese and Dutch traders who'd operated for 150 years, with mature networks, making entry tough. The British decided to forge a new path, making tea their breakthrough to build their own trade system. This was carefully calculated.
China was the world's sole tea producer. Trading with them meant monopoly power.
Whereas betel nut grew everywhere from India to Southeast Asia, no monopoly possible. So the British chose tea over betel nut. Conveniently, Brits needed tea. Their awful water made beer the common drink, causing drunkenness and social chaos that plagued city officials. Tea avoided these issues while boosting energy for work. A perfect solution.
Tea promotion gained two powerful allies, dairy and sugar producers.
Brits found plain tea too bitter, so they added milk and sugar, creating English-style tea. Thus, dairy and sugar sales soared. Producers eagerly fueled this trend, accelerating tea's spread to lower classes and profiting massively. By mid-19th century, the British made another leap, growing tea in northern India, breaking China's monopoly. Then, through Britain's global trade network, Indian tea spread worldwide, making afternoon tea a universal trend. Tea's rise shows how capital-driven demand and trade expansion create global commodities, opportunities betel nut never had. So, does betel nut still have a chance? The author believes prospects are slim. After centuries of evolution, tobacco, tea, and coffee are now deeply embedded in local economies and global supply chains. Betel nut doesn't meet this condition. More crucially, it missed its development time window. How to understand this? Comparing it to tobacco makes it clear. Tobacco rose in the 17th century when people didn't fully understand nicotine's dangers. By the time smoking's health risks were realized, tobacco was already a pillar industry in many regions. Governments could only restrict it, not abandon it. Betel nut wasn't so lucky. Since the mid-20th century, numerous studies show that chewing betel nut easily leads to oral lesions. According to statistics, 58% of global oral cancers are linked to betel nut consumption. Given this, the International Agency for Research on Cancer under WHO clearly indicates that betel nut is a Group 1 carcinogen. Under these circumstances, the betel nut industry can barely maintain the status quo. In reality, even in regions with betel nut chewing customs, more people are choosing to avoid it for health reasons. Taiwan is a typical example.
In the past, Taiwan's betel nut industry was very prosperous, with scantily clad betel nut beauties attracting customers as a street scene. In 2005, 8.5% of Taiwanese residents still chewed betel nut.
However, this percentage has steadily declined, dropping to 5% by 2017. The industry has also shrunk from 145,000 tons in 2008 to under 100,000 tons by 2020. Currently, this trend shows no signs of reversing. Experts generally agree that betel nut in Taiwan is already a sunset industry. So, will the industry shrink further? And will the custom of chewing betel nut disappear? The book's author believes that betel nut expanding its influence is unlikely. But in places with chewing customs like India, Southeast Asia, and China's Hainan, Guangdong, Guangxi, it will still have a place. For governments, on one hand, they must protect public health. On the other, they shouldn't abruptly cut off the betel nut industry that provides millions of jobs. Therefore, it can be foreseen that betel nut, like tobacco, will become a strictly regulated commodity, meaning it will maintain a certain scale but won't expand wildly. What do you think about the future of the betel nut industry? Welcome to leave comments in the comment section. Okay, chewing through 2 millennia. From medicine to addictive substance, the popular history of betel nut in China ends here. Listening notes are below the audio. See you next time.